I'm gonna want to. I'd like to get, some of the Christians overwhelming the pagans. And you could organize it. With computer-generated imagery, you can be so much more realistic, so much more detailed, that you really are transporting the audience. Like, the audience doesn't have to take that suspension of disbelief in order to lose themselves inside a well-crafted CG moment, if it's done appropriately. And we had some real wizards working on this film.
Well, when I read the book, and then I heard they were making the film, the instant reaction is, well, there won't be any visual effects. There's no job for a visual effects person. And then I met up with Todd and I sort of found out their plans, which was to hopefully show history rather than talk about it. And straight away you then click into what the effects challenges are going to be.
Of limitless power.
We didn't want to overload any one company with all of these challenges, so we would place the work very particularly with companies that had a track record with this sort of thing.
Maybe there is something about this priory of Sion.
I hope not. Any priory story ends in bloodshed. They were butchered by the church.
The first big flashback we have is where Tom Hanks is talking to Audrey in Bar de Boulogne, and we do flashback into the past to Jerusalem. Moving Picture Company, or MPC, worked with us. They joined very early on in the game to figure out the move, where is Tom Hanks standing, where is Audrey Tautou standing, how do we go from then, several hundred years into the past, what motivates that move. All of these things we figure out through the pre-visualization, literally, of the images.
We obviously had the plate of the two principals standing in front of a blue screen. Then as you transition off into 1099 Jerusalem, you've got a lot of foreground stuff, a lot of guys with flags, a lot of guys with shields, marching their way into the battle. They go down over a ridge, which then transitions into the CG battlefield, in which you have pretty much everything you would imagine to be happening in a battle scene like that, happening in the space of one shot. In the film, Langdon and Sophie are approaching Westminster Abbey, but all the while you're getting closer and closer to the Abbey, they're describing the funeral of Sir Isaac Newton. As they're getting closer, ghosts of 1727 of Newton's funeral start to appear around them. The timings of which are, timed with buses that were, quite heavily choreographed on set to disappear at certain points, revealing more crowd behind them. I think the idea was that because these ghosts were slowly appearing in the scene, that it was something, is that you were tuning them in like a radio. That, they were kind of coming on and off, and that it was like somebody trying to find the right dial to get the proper tune, and that's when the ghosts would resolve themselves completely. Until you end up with this high wide shot where the entire background changes and all the 21st century buildings disappear to reveal 1727 London at the time. We had to go from the exterior of the Abbey through this full CG bell tower to the interior of the Abbey.
The rest of the shot was recreated using computer 3D elements and a bit of live-action extras for outside to populate the exterior of Westminster Cathedral. We went to shoot some references in some bell towers, and now we're going to recreate the whole bell tower in the 3D model. A very important phase was the previs. So as you can see, this is a Westminster facade seen from above, and all the crowd, which is just a placement and a reference. So from this previs, we were able to give some very precise informations of a camera move to shoot the interior of a cathedral and all the separate layers and passes of all the people and all the extras who were going to sit in the cathedral. So here you can see one of the passes without any people in it. Then what had to be done was to merge these two cameras in to one final camera. So here it's a blend between a real camera and a CG camera.
Cryptex.
The other sequence that we're working on is the fly-through into the interior of the Cryptex itself with Giles Masters, who was the art director for the Cryptex. Giles was the art director for the exterior of it, so he designed the whole look and the feel and the idea behind what the Cryptex would look like as they carry it around, which is a live-action prop that they'll have throughout the film. But primarily we were focused on the interior of it. So we really had to get our hands in there and try to help them think it through and what the best way to really depict that little bit of storyline would be.
You build the model inside the computer, you build the Cryptex, and you animate a camera in 3D space inside the computer to explore around the Cryptex. Particularly with this, we wanted to make it look like a small camera, so it was quite shaky and, you know, just to look like an endoscope, like it was exploring a small space. After that, you have the lighting stage, so it's projecting light on and simulating real-world light to make it look like a real thing and shading it. And there were a whole team that I worked with on really talented people who were painting bits of textures and lighting it, and of course bits of animation of the vial breaking.
When we originally broke down the script, Saint-Sulpice was something we were thinking to do practically. There were some problems getting the location, it was in Paris, so Angus had just finished working on a film called Firewall with Rainmaker, and they were setting up a company in the UK.
So we were faced with the problem that there's a crucial part of the book located in a place that we're not able to film in. And that's where visual effects comes in. We shot at Shepperton Studios on a big green screen stage with a full 360 green screen wrapping around a very basic setup of the floor plan of Saint-Sulpice. We had columns built up to about 12 feet, some chairs, and then one corner we painted some of the paintings that were on the walls and really put some of the statues and really did a fantastic job.
I could not miss this chance to pray inside the Saint-Sulpice.
We shot those scenes with green screen. The actors would perform as required, and we put up tracking marks against the green screen so that we could record later on how the camera was moving, so that we could add that same movement back into our visual effects elements. A lot of people who have seen that shot have since gone to Paris, and they can't believe that they've not been to that church before, which I think is a testament to how well our artists have done on the Da Vinci Code.
I thought Constantine was a Christian.
Oh, hardly. No, he was a lifelong pagan who was baptized on his deathbed.
And action.
The Senate had just come off a big production called Rome for HBO. Jim Madigan was at the Senate as their visual effects supervisor. So Jim and Angus spoke a lot about what could and couldn't be done, how would we shoot things, what would be needed, what the Senate already had, what we planned on shooting for real.
Before we actually shot the pieces of Rome, we worked up previs, which is a pre-visualization. We made 3D models of the sets in the computer that would show and illustrate for people before we shot, so you could put it in front of Ron Howard or the DP, and they would say, yeah, that's it, or no, not quite, I was thinking a bit more like this, and then you could adjust it.
And then the day came when the Rome sequence had to be shot, and we were shooting on a very large green screen with the partial set build and about 300 extras.
everything behind it, we had to build ancient Rome, and that's all being made in the computer. It's all 3D computer models. So when we first made our initial 3D models, I actually laid them out on a blueprint of ancient Rome. So what you will see in the background is actually the real Roman Forum. We put basilicas and the temples where they go in the hills at the right heights, and so the idea is that this war is happening in the real Roman Forum.
Strengthen this new Christian tradition. Constantine held a famous ecumenical gathering known as the Council of Nicaea.
The Council of Nicaea was shot with motion control. We had a big U-shaped area where all the people are sitting. It would have taken 300 or 400 people to fill this area, but we only had, I think, 100. So we basically put the people about 1/4 around, then marked where they stopped, and then did the move, and then shot it again, you know, just from that line over, and just kept using the same people. And you never really notice that they're the same people, but you know, you put all them together, all the moves will line up frame for frame, exactly correct, and then we build the CG around it.
Give me a moment.
We went to Double Negative, who were just coming off of Batman Begins. Again, they had an amazing track record. The largest thing they took on was the Newton's Tomb sequence inside Westminster Abbey.
We began with initial pre-visualization because we knew that whatever we were going to create for Ron would have to be fluid in the way that it would always fit with the way that he shoots.
The biggest challenge on the shots generally were at the beginning were really just the look and feel that we tried to create, because it had to be done in a sort of a subtle way and ethereal way. So we had a bit of a job trying to get that together.
After the initial pre-visualization of this sequence, we took that with us to Lincoln, and that was used as a visual guide by the cameraman to try and recreate what we were doing in the computer on set.
Double Negative, aside from doing Newton's funeral, they also got the big end shot, which is going to be a real crowd pleaser, I think. It really sends a shiver down your spine.
167 Golf, take 1D, camera.
The shot was broken down into 3 sections, part A being the element which was shot in Paris above the inverted pyramid out in front of the Louvre. And we craned down past Robert into the glass ceiling in itself. It's then that we transition into the part B, which is in effect the complete digital section, which is where we go down through the glass structure, through the main chamber of the museum, which is completely digital, and then we move thirdly into part 3, which into the burial chamber where the sarcophagus is kept.
The majority of the shot was shot green screen, so that then we can replace any of the background elements with whatever we like. It's a little bit hard to see through because we've kind of smoked the scene up as well. But within the background, there are subtle hints of a big inverted pyramid wall. So there's old brickwork in there. It's taken, I would say, three months, something like that, which is the build, designing the camera move, getting all the motion control stuff done. It's the last shot in the movie and it has to look really good.
We've worked on over 600 shots under Vinci Code, of which between 400 and 500 will end up in the final cut. We've pretty much used every tool available in the box, I think. But what there is a lot of very subtle tricks being used to pull off an awful lot of very big effect shots that will hopefully never stand out. Because we have gone for this realistic approach whereby it's real camera moves in environments that could have been real or could be created for real, places that exist, such as Saint-Sulpice and Roslin are seen, places that we know existed, such as Rome and Jerusalem, as close as we can get them. We haven't invented any one item, but we've used, I think, every trick that we can possibly get.